going to hand things over to Nick, who will be handling our tech talk this month about tutor management in Accudemia.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, so we got a lot to cover. I didn't really filter this down, so let's go ahead and get right into it. So this is tutor management in Accudemia. I was just trying to think of all the different things that, like, when I'm helping centers get started, and even, continuing on with, like, managing their staff, like, what are the things that they'll be going through. So we've got just a few topics here. You can see broken into getting started, managing the center or center attendance. So you'll see it kind of goes along with the menu items that we have in the software. And then also just some, like, pointing out some helpful reports at the end of the term or whatever that might help you, maybe even week to week. So we'll go through some of those as well. So I'm gonna jump right into it. So, if you're just getting started, depending on where you are at, with the Accudemia software, definitely we need to get the tutors added in here into the software, and they may already exist as students or maybe even instructors in the system. So we would want to, search for them and add them as a tutor, give them that additional role, and then also assign them courses that they can help with. If you have import like a CSV file or even an Excel file with that information, who your tutors are, what their ID numbers are, this can be imported as well. But if you're going to be doing this manually, that's going to be located in the administration user account section. So let me jump to my Accudemia. Okay, so this is just my demo account. So typically, if you go under administration user accounts, you should hopefully see a list of users, depending on if the IT's got them in there yet or not. You may have to actually search for them first. If I know my tutor's name or ID numbers, I can go ahead and look for them. Oop. So I've got, like, Robert here, who's one of my tutors, and they're actually already marked in there. But they may have been in there already as a student. You can see that on the security tab of the user, what roles they have, and I just need to make sure that they have the staff role. The other thing while I'm in here, this staff, for instance, they might be a writing tutor, so they might be able to help with all courses, as long as it's, writing services. So, I might have this checked where it just has every course available. But then in the case where I have maybe a math tutor or something like that, I may actually go in here and just type in, like, the math course codes or anything that tutor could help with. And this can actually use, if you know the name of the course or the codes, it'll actually use either one. So, and you would just add those as you see fit. And this will have to be updated each semester. So you'll want to get in the habit of copying those over. So we do make it a little easier. Once you have all your staff in there and you have them assigned, let me clear this filter here. So you'll be able to see a list of all the staff. Now, if you have multiple centers, there might have other centers staff in there as well. So what you'll probably want to do is search for each one and select them as you go. Or you can just kind of scroll through and select them. Once you have them all selected, there's an option up here called assignments, and I can copy assignments from another semester. So that's very helpful when I'm coming out of a semester like right now. Maybe I want to copy all the fall assignments that they had previously and just go ahead and bring them over into spring. So I'd hit accept, and it would go ahead and copy that for all those tutors that I had selected. The next thing is we need to make sure that they have a schedule or availability. This is very helpful for, especially if you're going to be doing appointments. It's like that's like critical that they do that. So the other reason could be so you know who's available in your center, like when you're just seeing um, do you have good coverage for your courses and things like that, which you'll be able to see in a couple different areas of the system on the homepage as well as on like the daily viewer. You'll be able to see each day if you have coverage. So it's good to go ahead and get those in there, even if you're not maybe doing appointments, but definitely for appointments. So let me jump back over. Okay. And to get to that as an admin, I'm going to go into center attendance and we're going to go to staff schedule. When I get here, I could go ahead. I happen to actually be a tutor because I meet with students as well in my mind. So I have myself in here as a tutor, so you can see I have my schedule available. So it did default to me as the staff member, but I could actually go ahead and click this magnifying glass and see, a few tutors, or I could actually just, as long as I type like at least 3 characters, it will narrow down my results so that I can go ahead and set their schedule. I would just make sure I select my center, apply the filters, and then I could go ahead and adjust their schedule. This is actually really nice the way that this next part works. So when I click and drag over a part of the schedule, I could see exactly how many attendees they could meet with, what courses they're going to be available for. So in this case, it looks like it's a writing tutor because they have all the courses available and the services that they're available as well. And how I would limit this so this tutor doesn't get anything other than writing assignments, I would go ahead and customize that and deselect all the services except for writing assistance. And then now they're only available for 1 out of 8 services. And I'm going through these really fast. We got a lot to cover, but if you have more questions, definitely let us know. Support at Accudemia.com. And we have some good documentation on how this works as well. So
If people have questions during the presentation, you can also put those in the chat and we'll answer as many as we can at the end.
right. Okay, so next is some additional permissions that you can give your staff or your tutors. There's 2 different ways of going about this. I can actually either give the role itself, like the tutor role itself, some additional permissions. So everybody who has that tutor role will get some extra options available. Or if I want to more or less like create like a lesser admin role, then I could go ahead and create role group templates. So what that would do is I could pick and choose who I wanted to give these extra permissions to. Just keep in mind that you are giving them admin permissions, so they will have access to be able to do things maybe more than you want them to. So either options work. It just depends. You got to kind of find that balance yourself. And let's go ahead and take a look at that. So the first way is under administration control panel. And if we go in and look at our user account settings under the website settings here, this is going to be where I can give the tutor group or tutor role, sorry, as a whole some additional permissions. And I'll just jump down to the access restrictions. And you can see in here, it says like students can do this. I have staff. Now I changed my terminology from tutors to staff because I have different types of tutors that are in the center. So I just kind of made it generic. But these are all the tutor ones. So if you go in your section, it might say tutors. And then I've got some things that I can give permissions for our instructors down below that. But one of these that can be super helpful is that staff can edit their own schedule. So if you check that, or tutor can edit their own schedule, this will allow them to get the little My Schedule option here, and then they can go ahead and update their own schedule. Now they won't be able to touch anybody else's, but it does give that role the ability to update their own schedules. And there's a lot of other options that you might want to just kind of browse and see if that's something you want your tutors to have. Like they can sign in students, they could sign them out. There's one where they can sign themselves in and out from basically working remotely. So from any screen it says, but that's where they have this sign into a location option. So if they're working in a virtual environment, they'll be able to log their hours. Okay, and next is kind of helping with the center attendance aspects of it. So this is when they're actually, conducting their tutoring, things like that. And there's some things I might have left out in here after the fact. I was thinking about, session assessments and things like that. That's something where you can have the tutors fill out a brief form that you create about how the session went. Sort of like a survey, but it's specifically tied to each of the logs. Um, so that's something to just if you get a chance to check documents that we have, that might be something to look into. So some of the things you might want to help them out with is just helping them understand how the student walk-ins and appointments would go in academia. Maybe help with how they meet virtually. And I'm not going to go through through all the options that you could do with this, but I'm going to cover a little bit on each topic here. And then also helping them maybe with calendar integration. If you guys have an enterprise account or institution account, and it could be a single center or multi-center license, but those come with, as long as it's not a small center or essentials license, then you would get that Office 365 calendar integration. And what that can do is actually help so that even though they have a schedule in academia, excuse me, um, they'll actually be able to block off time on their Outlook calendar, or if they have an appointment that came up on their Outlook calendar, it'll automatically block that time off. So they're not going to be available on their, when they're being scheduled with students, if they're signing up for appointments and all that. Another option I can configure is assigning tutor tasks. So this would be um, to record more than just the times that they're helping students. So maybe I have some things that I have them do around the center, maybe working on study guides, maybe any kind of materials that they work on for the center, or just different various tasks that you want to keep those hours recorded. This would be a perfect thing for that. So let's jump back over to our academia. So when it comes to helping them with how a student um, might sign in and things like that, it might be helpful to do a session with your staff and show them the sign-in station. And if you do quick sign-in station here, it will bring one up. Um, and you could actually just either show them through this little preview, or you could set up this computer as a kiosk and log out. I'm not going to do that. I just want to go through the process just to show. And you could have a test student maybe set up and ready that's registered to maybe a few courses. Like this is what we normally do to kind of show it off, and log in as that student. You'll see the student's information, what options they have available. And it just kind of helps them know what the student's going through. So if they were going to, help answer questions or anything that comes up, they would know how that process works. So they pick the course, they pick their service, and it is asking if they can update their contact info, and that's it. And then they're signed in. So just getting them maybe familiar with that. And every center is going to be different. So, your walk-in settings and appointment settings in your control panel all are going to be definitely very different. Another thing is helping them with understanding how the appointments work. Um, maybe even going through, if you go to same thing, quick but new appointment, and going through that whole process of how your appointments are scheduled. If you show them under your account, might not make as much sense. So you might even have them log in and go through it with their account. They should be able to schedule with any student out of the box. Um, they may not be able to see everyone else's appointments though, being a tutor. So you can explain like where the limitations would go. Mm. And let me just jump back to, okay, calendar and virtual. Okay, let me jump back. So there's a lot to try and show you, but I want to just kind of get you in the right direction for these. So in the control panel under administration here, you can see we have the virtual sessions. Now I could go on uh, for a while on all these different options, but you'll want to go in here and some of the things that you may want to do, just leave it at the college level, is make sure that they do have the ability to create a connect link here. So this is a good thing to have enabled, especially if you're doing virtual. If you're not, that's fine. But if you're doing virtual, you want to make sure those connect links are enabled. And this allows them to use any platform that provides a link where they can get connected to their own personal area. So this is definitely good. We also have, if you are using Zoom integration. Now, this is a three-part process. It has to go through an approval and all this from an admin that's like on a Zoom admin level. But if you check here, this is the first part of that process. And then the second, you get the approval. And the third, I think it asks for your domain for your school. And that's usually just this first part anyway. But once you get all that set up and going, these are the two ways that tutor would add them. Now I'm happen to be a tutor, so I'm just gonna go ahead and show you on my account. So if I go to have the tutor log in, go to their account. If we're just say we're using like a personal meeting room and it's just going to be a link that's provided, maybe it's Blackboard Collaborate, maybe it's Microsoft Teams, whatever the case may be, I will have this option on my user if I'm a tutor and that link is enabled so that I can go ahead and have a personal meeting room. So whenever they sign up for a service that's virtual, this will be provided to that student. So that's one way. The other way is under the preferences when they click on their personal menu. And we have this thing called virtual meetings. So in there, this is where they would go ahead and connect a Zoom account. And like I said, you do have to go through that approval process first, but then after that, they should be able to click here and go ahead and log into their account and approve it and connect to meetings through that. So we do have multiple options there. The last one is, excuse me, is connecting to an Outlook 365 calendar. So if you guys have Outlook 365, this is great because it will block the times that they have other meetings, and you can actually choose which calendars get blocked. So if you have multiple calendars, maybe some shared calendars that you need to block the time off for staff meetings or whatever it is, you can actually have it look at multiple calendars. And when you come in here, like I have mine already connected, and it's using my calendar, but I can also say where I want to send any new appointments to. So I don't have to necessarily use my default calendar, but you can. And I'm going to disconnect it just so you can see. Normally this is what it looks like when you first get here, and you'll just connect and follow the prompts. It'll take you out to Microsoft to log in. And since I was already connected, it kind of sped that process up. But and then if you want to make sure that it's loading, you would check out what the synced events are. I'm not gonna do that. It'll probably take a while to load, but that's where you would set that up. And basically, I think the main point is just to kind of familiarize your staff as well as yourself with these sections so that when you're explaining it, you'll be able to do that. Oh, and tutor task. I give myself a challenge here. Hold on. So tutor task, there's actually two parts to it. So under administration, tasks, this is where you actually would build out what your tasks are going to be. And when I create a new task here, it really just has to be a label. So whatever the item is that I'm having them work on, I would go ahead and label it. And then if it's available in all centers, that's perfect. But if not, I can uncheck that, and then I get to pick which centers that it shows up for the staff in. So maybe, these are universal tasks that they do in all centers, but if it's not, then you could actually have ones that are set specifically for your center. Now, that actually builds the task, but we have to enable it. So under administration, control panel, in the walk-in settings, um, we're actually going to go to the center, and down in the tutors or staff section, it's almost toward the bottom of that section. It'll say ask staff to select a task, or if you're using the default, it's ask tutor. And by checking that and saving it at the top, you'll now, when this tutor goes to sign in at a sign-in station, it'll ask them, what are they signing in for? Is it regular, if you had a task called regular work hours versus maybe, study guide creation, or maybe it's, offline paper reviews or something like that. So whatever kind of tasks you can think of. So it's really just a label you would put in there. So. And we did all that. So just really quickly to kind of go over some of the reports that I feel would be helpful when you're kind of managing your tutors. Well, one is if you're actually giving your individual tutors like additional permissions as an admin, maybe you want to go in there and just pull a report of who you gave what permissions to. Like, let me kind of audit what I did here. If you didn't create role group templates, which is kind of a grouping of permissions that you apply based on maybe your own kind of positions that you have in the center, um, then might be more difficult to know what everybody has. But this report here is called user roles and permissions. It's going to let you know all of your users and what roles and also permissions that they might have. So you can see in this last one where I have somebody's a student, tutor, and admin, it shows me what those permissions are. And if they're just a student or a tutor, then it'll have those roles listed. Mm. This is a good one too. Even if you're using the role templates, this will tell you what each role template actually has permission wise in it. So you can kind of compare and say, wait, this one's the same as this one, or maybe this one needs more permissions than that one. Just to make sure everybody has the proper permissions in the system. And that's permissions by role template. While you're helping your staff get all their virtual stuff set up, this is a helpful report because it'll show you if the user has set up their connect link or not. So you've got some in here, depending on if they use GoToMeeting, some of these are Zoom links. Whatever platform they're using, you should be able to see that pretty clearly in that report. So, and then the ones that don't have it, you can go ahead and talk to them and try and help them maybe get that. So this one is I think it's in the general reports, tutors with connect links. And this one here is if I've seen a lot of times when I get in calls with clients, they're wondering why a tutor can't be scheduled. Um, this is actually really handy report. It's external calendar integration status. Now there is actually a view in Accudemia where you can see this as well. And I want to just show you that real quick. It's going to be under administration, advanced, and Outlook 365 integration. This is a list where I could actually disconnect them and then see if I can go ahead and schedule them. I've seen a lot of instances where they're actually connected and you might have to talk to the tutor so they realize like, oh, they're actually blocking off time when they should be available. And maybe it's by accident, they just, maybe I've seen where they block off the time that they're supposed to be tutoring. And since it's marked as busy, it will go ahead and block that off. So this is how you can access it in the system, but we also have a report to show you that as well. Okay, and This one is tutor hours with the task. So not only is it going to have their hours, like how many hours they signed in for that week, let's say if you pulled it weekly, but it's also going to have exactly which task that they worked on. So you can see in here I have some with regular work hours and then study guide development, like I was saying. And there is one that's just tutor hours if you want like just the basic hours as well. I didn't put it up on this PowerPoint, but and then this one is a summary. So it's more of if you don't want every time they signed in with the subtotal, just if you want the total hours worked on each task. Okay. Oh, and before we start the live Q&A, and I'll go through some of the chat questions here. I was gonna just show you a few of those reports. So I like the one, was it the tutor task report? These are actually kind of new here. We also have one that I didn't actually have a slide for was it's tutor activity and mine's staff activity. Let me show you that one that since I didn't have it on the slide. And I'm gonna just set this back for fall so that I have some data in there. But what I could do here, it will want me to choose a staff member here because it shows me like a summary of all the visits they've had with students, all the hours that they signed in, and if any of those were appointments as well. So kind of like a overall breakdown for that staff member. And it's kind of similar to like an old report we had in AccuTrack called like tutor utilization. So you kind of get to see, these are the times that they met with students. And then this middle section would be when they punched in and punched out, and then how many of those were appointments here. And mine is sample data, so you have to excuse me. I have very limited info in here, but you might see more if you pull that on a staff member. Okay. And I mean, I kind of showed some of those other ones in the PowerPoint, and I know I'm probably over time, so let me let me get to these questions. Okay, so I see one from Sydney. Does Accudemia have plans to have MS Teams integration in the future? I know the institutional plan can connect to Outlook calendars right now. So yeah, Teams is definitely on the horizon, I would say, because it's we've had that actually on the user voice. So I know like they were looking for suggestions for future improvements, and that was one that had come up as well. So I I can't say it's going to come out, in this next update, but it's definitely something that we've marked as a to do item. So da, 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 da. Oh, okay. I think the other one's from Rachel, right? So
Yeah, yeah. So if anybody else has any questions for Nick, you can feel free to at this time unmute yourself, or you can put that in the chat, and we will take questions. I think at this point about anything, if you have it about the topic or just academia in general, please feel free to put that in the chat or unmute yourself. I see somebody's typing, so we'll give them a minute.
Sorry, I chose to just unmute myself.
Okay, no problem.
there you
go. I want to make. I've been kind of messing with some features. I want to make sure I'm understanding it correctly. The text messaging feature is a one-way text. Is that correct? We don't have a way to receive text back.
Right. It's more kind of
Okay.
like a notification. So yeah, I don't know if you have to put anything at the end that would say, please do not reply, or replies. This is the unmonitored reply or something like that. I don't know.
Right. And then when you were doing some of those tutor features, when I go under my administration ribbon and I go under advanced, I don't see the 0365
It could be based
template?
on the license type that you have.
Okay.
If you're under a small center license, I would check that out with like your sales rep. But more than likely, that's probably what it is. And if you're on a trial, um, just remember that to get the single center institution license, if you're trying a single center out, so that you get that option to try out in the trial.
Okay.
Because
Jeremy,
basically
any
all the institution licenses, oh, my bad, go ahead, you were gonna say. But
No, no, no. We had
they,
another question, so you can finish that up.
yeah, the institution licenses get that. We have two other ones below that. It's like called essentials for more like just writing centers that wanted to track appointments, and small centers. So if you have those two, it wouldn't be available. So
Jeremy wants to know, is Accudemia going to be used in other departments as well, for instance, nursing labs? And the answer is, yeah, we have lots of clients who use Accudemia in areas other than tutoring. I know we have some nursing areas that use it. We have lots of different types of labs and other student services like financial aid, advising. Accudemia is very versatile, so there's no reason to not use it in any other space that you need to use it in. Basically, we have a like residence halls, fitness centers, yeah, you name it. I think there you can
and
find a
and
school that's
I
using it that way.
have a tendency to use the tutor or staff kind of terminology, like just because that's kind
Yeah,
of the way it comes out of the box. But you can always change those terms and use it for advising or um, registration offices, whatever
yeah.
area that you need.
Yeah, we have it's definitely it has its origins in tutoring centers, which is why you'll find it most often used in tutoring centers, and you'll find the language in Accudemia geared towards tutoring centers. But like Nick said, there you can make changes to a lot of the language within the system and use it to your advantage. So when we say tutors, you can usually interchange that with any type of role at your university or college that interacts with students and is a person who a student might make an appointment with or meet with, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know for a fact I have like, at least a dozen nursing schools that we've helped with it. So